Coming up on this episode, I'm taking a bit of a wacky turn and exploring all of the thoughts that I've been having around simulation theory. While I might not directly dive into the ins and outs of simulation theory, there are a bunch of questions that are proposed by my mind that is just like, these are contradictions, but they also have some truth into them, and it's sending me round and round in circles. So I'm going to put this one out there to see if there is anybody else whose mind spirals as much as this. But there are definitely some important questions and insights by exploring this idea. So sit with me as I go on a bit of a wacky one and explore all things simulation. So let's go get into it. What's going on, beautiful people? This is the Perspective Chasers podcast, and I'm your host, John. On this episode, I'm going to take a bit of a wacky spin and ask the question, are we living in a simulation? Because it's something that I've come back to time and time again, but obviously can never answer. But it's a great question, and it's interesting to just let the mind wander. The mind itself is a computer circuit, and everything runs with energy, and there's so many things that tie into it that argue that we are in a simulation, but then there's so many things that argue that we ain't. So I'm going to try to explore both sides of it and let you in on where my mind goes with this, because it really is a fascinating topic, and I know I'm not the only one that asked this question. So sit with me as I ask it to myself and let you in on all of these secrets. But first, to prove I'm not completely insane, a little bit of a related fun fact. The odds are actually that we are in a simulation and that you are a sim. So Bostrom once hypothesized that if our ancestors were to run a simulation about ancestry, that we would basically be outnumbered, or they would be outnumbered 1 trillion to 1 by sims. So by sheer odds of probability, we probably are a sim or some form of digital generation one way or another. Now, can we completely prove that? That's where it gets interesting and the mind starts to boggle. So, where to start with the idea of if we're in a simulation? Because as soon as you ask the question, you're like, well, no, I'm real. Of course I'm not in a simulation. But how would a simulation feel? How does a simulation feel? Have you ever been in a fully submersive simulation? How many of us can genuinely say that we know what it's like to be immersed in another reality? So then, can any of us definitively say that we know we're not? I know I can't. Genuinely, I've experienced different forms of mental state, different types of meditation and psychedelics over my years. And I've experienced things that are far beyond the physical knocking on wood and banging on a table and the cup in front of you. But I can't hold on to that, and I can't keep that in my reality. So if you want to frame it that way, I always come back to this. Why is that? Is this my sim that I have to return to? And if that's the case, then where do I go when I sleep? And why do I sleep? There are so many instances that just kind of ask more questions than they answer. So you never end up getting to the bottom of this question. I was trying to wrap my head around this last night. And even from the idea of like the flat earthers and all of that kind of stuff. Okay, cool. The earth is flat. Then explain the planets that we see in the sky. Oh, they're a projection onto a firmament. Okay, cool. Well, then what's beyond that? What's outside that firmament? Because are we still just floating in empty space? Is it part of a bigger earth? What is actually out there? And again, nobody can wholeheartedly say there's just another problem. Oh, the ice wall. Oh, you can't get outside the dome. Oh, this, oh, that. But then if all of that is true, why do we need to be in a simulation for any of that to be true? It really starts to get confusing. And then you start to think about the ideas of water around the globe, and then we're spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, but then the oceans have no visible movement of that motion. They seem to move independently. And you can see how it just spirals and spirals and spirals, and it's just like, well, if this is true, then that must be true, but then this proves that, and you get to the point where it's like, are we meant to understand this? Probably not, but it's fun to try to. Like, there's so many instances where there are insights to be gained or just fun to be had by exploring this rabbit hole. Like, how many films, books, and other forms of media have come out of simply thinking about life and where it can go and all of its possibilities and all of its variations. Like, if everything is a simulation, then does it disprove the multiverse theory, or does it further prove it? Or does it change it and adapt it, or does it disprove or prove God? Like, there's so many questions that are kind of proposed by the one question. That it seems to be what's the phrase? Just the gift that keeps on giving, I think it is. But the more you think about, well, if this is a simulation, so everything can kind of be dialed back down to atoms and molecules, and in its simplest forms, damn it, I'm going to lose my words. What's the opposite of an electron? Somebody out there will know. But everything comes down to normally two core things. Even look at, like, to relate it back to the simulation, binary code. So if you have binary, as far as I understand it anyway, the only way binary works is because there is a contrast within the code. So if you had just 1 or just 0, no matter how many 1s or 0s you put in a line, it would mean the exact same as just having a single digit. Because nothing about that has changed. It's not until you introduce a second digit, a form of contrast, something where there is a moment of change, that all of the former is actually acknowledged. So you could have a million ones in a row, but that is the exact same as just saying 1, because it's just 1 recurring. It hasn't actually changed anything. It's not actually going to count because it's got nothing to count in that sense. It's just got itself over and over and over again. And saying itself repeated is just the same as saying itself. So it's not until you have something of contrast that you put a 0, or if you started with the 0, the 1, something to contrast it. So it has to go through all of those digits. It has to acknowledge all of that come before it to then acknowledge the change. Brain's getting tired already. Damn it. But so when you think about things like that, there has to be contrast in life. No matter what you go through, the good is always going to need a bit of bad for it to be acknowledged as good. The bad is always going to need a little bit of good to be acknowledged as good. There's always going to be that contrast required in life. But that sounds like a game. Like, it sounds like there has to be a storyline, there has to be this balance and this and that. Like, the reason I struggle with the idea of an omnipotent God and things like that is because why really would an omnipotent being that could be everywhere and have full control over a planet, a game, or whatever else, why would they do it? Again, if you knew the outcome of every single story, why would you read it? Like, you wouldn't watch a film that you knew how every single act and scene is going to go unless you really loved the film. But then if there was this omnipotent God that is creating worlds and life and this and that, why would they stop at 1? And there's so many more questions that come out of this. I'm going to confuse myself so much in this episode. But the questions are just thrown up over and over again. Well, if this is a simulation, then does that disprove or prove this? Or if that happens, does this happen? And you really do need like one of those psychopaths, like drawing rooms with string everywhere and pictures on the floor and on the ceiling and don't step on that, that's my mind map and da 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 da. Like, there is so much that gets so confusing and it's so hard to figure it out. Like, even to dial it back to like the planets and the water and everything else. Like, okay, if you want to argue that we're on a flat plane, then what else are we existing in and everything else? When you look at the idea of a simulation in a game, the game in itself has its parameters, it has its confines and its own rules of engagement in that sense. So then, does this world have its own rules of engagement? Well, yes, there are laws of physics, there are laws of mathematics, and so on and so forth. So there are confines and there is a code to this game. But then we're experiencing it in ourselves. We are physical, we are literal. You should, by, by theory, be able to leave the planet. Regardless whether it's flat, round, or whatever else, there should be something beyond this. But then there are so many questions as to, well, can we really, da-da-da-da. And that's why I always come back to that idea of there's only one way to see it. And that refers me to this kind of, the most recent space race, which I won't get into the ins and outs of, but with like Katy Perry and that going into space, or supposedly going into space. Like when you actually hear about how high up they went, it really ain't that far. I think it was like 63 miles. And when you think you can drive that in an hour, to think that we are that close, and I think they went to the point of they didn't feel gravity. So they didn't completely leave Earth's atmosphere or whatever else, but still. When you think that we are probably within 100, maybe 200 miles of leaving the face of this Earth, well, what the hell is out there? And if the dome is only 200-300 miles up, somebody run the mathematics on that and see what shape the dome would have to be and in order to encompass all of Earth. Because again, there are so many things that are perpetuated. Like, for that to be true, every single map, at least in the modern day, would have to be a conspiracy theory altogether to basically lie and this and that. And is that impossible? No. But why? Like, again, it just throws up questions. No matter how hard or how long I spend or how many things I look into about this, there is no definitive answer. There was something else I see before. I'm not going to be able to remember his name, but he's a really renowned physicist, and he basically found binary code at the core of our reality. And is that just to say that binary code is part of our reality and we use that in our electronics and so it's part that we kind of magnify and enhance? So yes, it is a part of us, but it's just like, well, we use oxygen to breathe, we use binary code to, I don't know, conduct a thought process or whatever else. Again, your essence, your being is electricity. It is a form of energy. So it is gonna have to interact in an energetic way? No. What would be a right way of framing that? It's gonna have to, damn it, I've lost the word. It's gonna have to interact with different elements of its own medium in that sense. So again, that's going to get into dimensions. Suppose there's so many questions. So when you look at it in that, like, energy has to interact with energy and there has to have its own language in that sense. There has to be, again, a form of signals. And I mean, the moment you look at your body, it is a whole kind of industry of different functions. You've got a whole, I don't know whether it'd be nuclear reactor, but it'd be some form of that in your body that is transfer. Damn it, words. What's the actual intelligent word for it, John? There's a is it thermodynamic? I don't know. Thermo something. There is a process in which your body breaks down calories by heating them up and That's what a calorie is, how much energy it takes to break down said thing. or how much energy is released once that thing is broken down. That's the one. And when you look at your body through that lens, it is a factory. It is a machine. You put in essentially waste, or you put in product, and you get out energy. You also get out waste. But the energy that you get from that, you then use to propel yourself through life. You then grow, you X, Y, Z, all the stuff that the bodies do. But then, if it is a game, would you need to do that, or is that just part of the game? Like, we play survival games where you have to eat, you have to hunt, you have to do all of these things, and then you ask yourself about the merit system, the kind of reward bias that humans have for doing tasks. And the more tasks that you do, or the gratification that you get from doing tasks, encourages you to do more. So we're kind of set up to play this game. Although it doesn't feel like it, it keeps coming back to that thing of like, well, we have all of the ingredients to it. So then how many times do you come back to the drawing board in that sense, be like, well, I've got all of the ingredients for a cake, I'm hungry, but I don't know what to eat. Well, do you just make a cake, or do you go, those ingredients could also make something else and make something completely different? The same ingredients can create two completely different dishes. So the ingredients for life, is it created a simulation, but then has that simulation in its own form created life? Or is life just a simulation? So to all of us, like I say, I can pinch you and it feels real. To you watching this now, I'm a real moment in your life of you watching this, But I'll have no sense or no bearing of how that feels or what that's like to see me. Like, we don't even know what we actually look like. The perception that we have of ourselves is distorted from the get-go, but then our perception of ourselves are what we use to shape our reality. So we're shaping our reality from a falsehood off the bat. So where the hell do we actually begin with this? So there is a small discrepancy between all of your senses, between your sight, your hearing, your taste, your touch, all of that. There is hundreds of seconds of discrepancy. Obviously, light travels at a different speed to sound, so on and so forth, right? Your skin's going to pick up different changes in the temperature and humidity at a different rate than you're going to see a flash. All of these things are going to happen independently, but then our brain renders them simultaneously into a coherent image. Well, that's a simulation right there. Your brain is doing a compute. It is taking in inputs. It is mediating them. It is speeding some up. It is slowing some down. It's filling in some blank spots. It's doing all of the stuff that rendering software would do on a computer. But yet we're flesh and blood and no, I'm real. But it's doing all of the stuff that a computer would do. It's doing all of the stuff that a factory would do. It's doing all of these different things that you could, again, have all of the ingredients and say, look, it's a cake. And you go, no, it's cookies, or it's whatever other ingredients that you want to whip them up. It's pancakes, There's so many ways in which you could say, yeah, these ingredients make this. Yeah, but they also make that. Like, you could be a perfect parent and give your kid everything that they wanted, everything that they needed, and they go out in life and they become successful because you gave them all of the right tools. Or you could do that exact same action, do the exact same process, and they go on to become a degenerate because, oh, well, I had it too good, you made life too easy. But everybody is different in that sense. And the way that everybody kind of evolves and changes, everybody's experience shapes their own reality, which shapes their own ideas of the world, which then impacts how they act on the world, which then impacts the reality that they experience, which again builds out their next actions, and so on and so forth. So we are automatically rendering our own experience, our own realities. So that screams simulation. But I was born. I'm going to die. Like, all of these things are true, and there's different elements where you know things without a shadow of a doubt. So if this is a simulation, where do I go when I sleep? Because like I say, I always come back here, or at least it feels like I always come back to the same place. There's no guarantee on that. But I feel like I come back to the same place time and time again. So what is anchoring me here? Am I just putting in the same disc over and over again? There was this weird moment when I was doing just taking five, having let's argument's sake, say like a quiet meditation. The easiest way to contextualize it. And I was at that weird point between asleep and awake. My body was completely gone. Like if I'd have fought to move my arm, it wouldn't have moved. I'd hit that level of kind of disconnect where I was completely coherent in my mind, but not there in my body. And for a split second, I almost shifted lenses to where I could see the person as almost as if they'd paused my character. But then I got to break that fourth wall for a second. Oh, that sounds so crazy. But I kind of see this almost alien-looking dude with a controller in his hand and tentacles. And he was essentially controlling my character or my sim. And I asked myself, like, hey, are you me? Are you controlling me? And if so, like, can you up your levels here? Can you get some cheat codes or like, have some damn pride in the game? Like, this is my life. This might be your game, but this is my life. And was that a moment that was created by my mind, or was that a genuine moment where I'd hit a point of meditation where I'd peeked through the curtain and broken that fourth wall in a sense? Like, I've had out-of-body experiences where I can literally feel myself floating out of my body and over my house, and I can see around the area, and I can literally explore. I've felt as if I'm genuinely out of my body exploring space and the corners of the universe in a sense. Well, to me, it felt real as hell, but again, I have no photo or it didn't happen, bro. I have no photos, so yeah. Can I really say it happened? Maybe not. But again, to me, that experience was real. And it's a real moment that I remember. Same with my dreams. They're real moments that I remember. And that's why I know that this moment was different than a dream. Because I know how dreams feel. I've had moments where I can control my dreams and I can have a bit of intuition in that dream state. And by exploring that and knowing that kind of difference, kind of like, you know, the difference between a shower and rain. Like, you just know the rain doesn't feel the same as a shower does. Like, I might not be able to explain exactly why. Maybe it's the pressure, maybe it's the this, that, or whatever else. But they don't feel the same. You know the difference. Even with your eyes closed, I could put a shower on you and then you put you in the rain and you'd know which one is different. So I think the same is said for life and dreams. Like when you're in a dream, I know some people don't have the disconnect that. So when you go to sleep, you get your brain. My brain's fried. When you go to sleep, your brain puts your body into paralysis so that you don't act out your dreams. But some people go so deep into paralysis that they don't necessarily dream at all. Not everybody remembers their dream. That's going to tie into how your mind works, whether you're visual or verbal or however your mind may be. There's going to be so many different elements as to how your dream state is. But for me, it's highly cinematic at times. It's fully immersive. Like there are times in which, I've probably mentioned it before, but I'll say it again. I once had a dream that I was a head of cauliflower getting broken up, put into a soup. And I could literally feel as if somebody was breaking up my face and putting me into this bowl of soup. And I was screaming and screaming and screaming like, no, I'm alive, I'm alive, I'm alive. And in the moment, as much as I'm aware I'm a dream and I know I'm John, I'm not a cauliflower, in that moment, I was a damn cauliflower. And I was getting broken up and put into the soup. And that was my reality in that moment. So are our dreams this this kind of hop, skip and a jump into another form of reality, another sense of being where you can exist in a temporary state but not in permanence. And if that's true for dreams, could that not be the same for life? Like, some of these truths cascade through life, through laws of physics, this, that, or whatever else. Could that be one of them? Could this life essentially be the dream of another being? And very much like Inception in a way, like it's a dream within a dream within a dream. So then where's the original dream? And can you dream so deep that you enter the first dream again? I always say about the kaleidoscope of life, and sometimes how life can seem like it's cyclical in its living, or that feeling of deja vu when you knew something was coming, and sometimes your brain tells you that it's going to come, and it might be wrong 1,000 times over. But that 1,001st time, you're like, damn it, I knew it. Is that a bias because the one time that it does happen, that you actually remember that? And the 1,000 times before that, you ignored it? So while your brain's kind of generating all of these different parts of your reality, is it kind of rendering all the possibilities as well? And all of the ones that it's essentially wrong with, it just puts down to a thought. But anything that it renders to be right or close to, it puts in a bit of a different category. And it goes, oh, cool, this is intuition, this is this is that. But really and truly, it's an algorithm. It's a bunch of codes and equations that equal a certain outcome. There's so many instances in life where you can apply an algorithm, an equation, a scenario over and over again, and the more times you run it, the more accuracy you'll get, the more information you'll get, the more solid the ideas from that will come. But it takes time to do that, and in itself is an experiment. So when you're looking at the experiments and all of the questions that come with that, you got to ask yourself, well, how many biases are there? Because there's always going to be biases, whether they're ingrained in us just generally through life. So the idea that this is all a simulation, how far can your brain physically get outside of that? Although, for example, if you were studying evolution, you might not understand why something evolves that way, but you can do the research and you can almost work backwards and put the pieces of the puzzle together and figure out, oh, this come before that, or that come before this, and this is why that happened, and these events led to that. And you can see the cause and effect because you can zoom out enough. But again, we can't, again, there's going to be so many arguments come from this, but you can't zoom out enough to get away from the world and life to say, this is reality, this is that. Like, even still, when we're exploring the stars, exploring the cosmos, that's through a certain lens. Normally a camera lens. It's not with the naked eye. That's right there and then. It's a computer's interpretation of the supposed real world. But is that world real to us or real to the technology? Like, when you look at what is real to you, what is this, what is that, there are so many of us living completely different experiences that there are going to be so many things that are completely true to me or completely true to you but false to the other. And you could argue, like that picture of somebody arguing with somebody about the letter 6, where you've got one person on one side and one person on the other side, and they're both arguing it's a 6, the other one's arguing no, it's a 9, and from their perspective, they are right. But from the others, they are wrong. So how many of us are going through instances in life where this is true? Where for one person, they're like, life is terrible. Okay, for you, it may be. It might be the worst time that there has ever been in existence right now for you. But for somebody else, it might be the best time to be alive, the best time for humanity and this, that, and everything else. Both can be simultaneously true. But the broader world has its own truth. But we can only observe portions of it. So like the idea that our brains only render the kind of world that we need to interact. there's only so much you can render at once. Even if you was to be one of those people that go to space, go on one of these spacecrafts and see the world from orbit or whatever else, you're still only so far away. And by going that far away, you've now zoomed out and lost ideas of the details. Like, yeah, you might be able to see some light pollution or whatever else, but you're not going to be able to see the people. You're not going to be able to see the animals, all of the things that are going on, how the wind blows through the trees, how the ocean tides are shifting. There's going to be so many things that you lose sight of when you're trying to gain sight of something else. So how much can we actually comprehend? Is our brain actually meant to understand what is outside of this world or outside of this simulation or outside of whatever the hell we're in? Is the character in the games that you play meant to comprehend the world that is outside the game? No. Like, although there are instances or flickers of it, like take Sims, you literally recreate life, you build a family, build a house, go maybe get a job, this, that, whatever else, whatever you want to do with your little Sim character. It mimics life, but it's not life. Does that Sim experience stress, anxiety, happiness, sadness, joy, all of the things that come in between? From your perception, no. But at the same time, you can perceive as much of that from a Sim as you can from your friend or from any other person. Like, as much as, yeah, they may be able to communicate it better to you, you can't feel their sadness. You could be a great empath, yeah. And you could be like, oh, I can see that you're sad. I can see that you're hurting. And that really hurts me. And you can kind of acknowledge that. Same sense if your Sim gets fired or divorced or whatever else. You can say, oh, I'm sad for my little Sim. I've put a lot of work into that guy and he was happy. He was enjoying life or she was enjoying life. And now they're ruined. Like, you can have that level of empathy, but you can't feel that emotion. You can't feel if they're hungry in their belly, if they're happy in their heart. Like, you'll never be able to feel that of another person. You can only truly feel that for yourself. And most people these days, they're struggling to even acknowledge their feelings. They're struggling to acknowledge and process their own thoughts and emotions. So if they're struggling to process their own, how are they going to process somebody else's? And how much of this is because we don't have the script to the game? We don't read the manual. Quite ironically, it's only now, nearly 2 years into the pod, where I've gone back and I've actually started to look through the manual of the cameras and the microphones to understand how I can get the best out of them. Because there is so much of us, when we get a game or when we get anything in life, and there's probably more of a man problem than a woman problem, but we just want to plug and play. Straight away, we just want to go. I've got it, I want to go. Like, that is my mind. As soon as I've got the opportunity, I'm taking it. Let's go. There's no time to waste to go, okay, cool, let me read the terms and conditions. I ain't got 9 months to read terms and conditions. I need to get to doing this. My mind goes too fast. Life goes too fast. No. I can figure out far more by just doing than I can reading. But you miss things in the process. So there is a time, I've mentioned it a few times, like the episode where I say start stupid. Like, there's no time frame on when you have to go back and actually pick up all of the things that you missed. But by starting stupid and learning along the way, you've at least got yourself on that path. You've started that journey. So to then go back and read the manual and understand the ins and outs of it, that comes later and is far more important and takes some time. But you can, at least for me, it's easier to go back and pick up the slack on the back end. At least I've started on the journey. It's the same sense of, like, if I'm doing a long drive, I will take as minimal toilet breaks as I can. I'm not stopping to have a nice meal in a cafe or go sightseeing. I want to go from A to B as fast as possible. That is the objective, and that is what I want to do. Again, that's like a game. I've got an objective. I'm focused on it. There are some people that will explore and do the side missions and find the side quests. And again, to relate it to life, I've done that in my adult life with Pokemon. Like, I loved Pokemon as a kid, and there was so many elements to it that I just enjoyed. But to me, the aim of the game was to build a strong Pokemon, build it up, and beat the damn life out of anybody that I come into. That was the aim of the game. But for other people, it was, no, go around, collect all of the Pokemon, complete the Pokedex, And then that unlocks this, and then you can get a legendary, and then you can do this, and you can do a side quest, and that unlocks this souvenir, and then if you've got this game, it unlocks that. And you go, oh, okay. I genuinely went back as an adult, and now I've realised that all of those games that I synced hours and hours into as a kid doing the main storyline, there was hours and hours of fun that I could have had doing the side quests and all of the other stuff. Whereas now, cool, I can go back and I can do that when I've got time to de-stress and just take 5. If I want, I can indulge and I can go back and I can do that. But at the time, I still had my fun. I still enjoyed the games, and I didn't lose anything in that sense. Like, maybe I did, but I still got enough from it that I had my fun. I still enjoy that game. I still enjoy that kind of genre and everything else. But I don't see that as a lose-lose, because I've got the opportunity to go back. But then if you look at that at life, how many opportunities do you have to go back and tighten up the back end in a sense? So like with the podcast, yeah, I can come back and I can deepen my understanding with camera levels because I'm going to continue to do it. I've still got time. I can keep improving over time. I've got time to indulge in games and distractions and films. So it's easy to, in my mind, go, cool, we're just going to shelf that and we're going to get to that at a later stage because it's not priority. Again, I'm objective driven. For me, that's just part of my character profile. But now the more I delve into this and the more I think about it, it becomes a chicken and an egg scenario. Where it's like, have we built games to shape our reality, or has our reality shaped games? And if the first is true or the second is true, what does that mean for before that? So if life is shaping the games, fair enough, we can say life happened, people experience life and thought, this is good, but what if A, B, C happened? Or what if we done this? What if we could fly? What if we had spaceships? What if we had little creatures that had fantastic moves? What if there was magic? And it had all of these hypotheses, and that led to games. Or what if the games led to life and we are in a game itself, and because we're in a game, we then see game-like aspects to life, so then we create a game again. And you create this cascading thing of just a game within a game within a game, and then where is the original? And if each is real to itself, very much like, I mean, you could take Pokemon or you could take any game you think about, when they're interacting with that game, here's a scenario for you. If you was playing Call of Duty and your character gets shot, that character gets impacted by that moment. You don't get impacted by that moment. But if you get annoyed with that moment and throw your controller at the screen, breaking the screen, the character doesn't feel that you threw the controller at the screen. The screen may feel it, but it doesn't make its way through to the character's reality. So although there are some things that can affect the game from your reality, i.e. you moving the joysticks, you shooting the buttons, or blah, 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 there are real world things that you can do that don't affect that game in any way, shape or form. You can unplug it from the TV and that game will still be running. It's still rendering. To that game, it's still happening. But to you, you can't perceive it. So how much of it is that there's a chance that the actual Milky Way galaxy is a disk spinning in somebody else's CD drive out there in the cosmos somewhere? Again, we can't zoom out enough to say definitively no. I mean, I know I can't. And it just, again, baffles me. I know this episode is going in circles and circles, and I have no promises of answering any of your questions. But it is so fun to think about. And it is such a rabbit hole to explore that it's something I keep coming back to. Like, there are so many different ways you can weave it through and different ebbs and flows to it. Like I say, like the moment that you ask yourself, well, we are energy beings. Well, energy runs on laws of electricity and it's got its own parameters, and then how it's generated and this and that. So then you've got the laws of that in it, but then we interact with each other and you've got social norms, but then we also interact on this digital network now, and that has commonplace in life, and it attaches to all of our different parts of life, our friendships, our work, our relationships, and it's only going to get more, it's only going to get deeper. There are going to be people that have fully immersive lives, like the film Wall-E, where you've got people in their chairs just floating around with screens perpetually in their face. It's like, what the hell are we doing? Like, is that actually life? Because for one person, that is going to be life, that whole virtual world. But there are still going to be people out there living hunter-gatherer style, hunting for their food, gathering water, building fires by hand. Both are going to be true simultaneously. Which one's real? I think each to the observer. To me, this is life right now. This is real. What I'm doing right now, to me, is real. But somebody that is watching this is going to wonder, is this AI generated? Is this actually what he looks or sounds like, or this, that, or whatever else? They will never actually know how true that is until they meet me in person. And even still, you've got the idea of the camera adds £10, or you don't look as tall or as this or as that or whatever as somebody may build you up to be in their mind. This is going to go for any, again, there's going to be outliers on the extremes, but there always is. So if you're somebody that is, say, 6'7", you're going to look at somebody that's 6 foot, 6'1", whatever else, that would be classed as tall to anybody else. And you're like, they're just a normal person. Whereas if you're somebody that's 5 foot, you're going to look at somebody that is 6'1" and 6'7", relatively the same. You might say the 6'7" person's a bit more of a giant or whatever else. But to yourself, they're going to perceive you, you're going to perceive them fairly similarly. Whereas they will probably perceive you slightly differently because you're seem smaller and smaller to those. So the person that is 6'7", proportionally, they'll be looking at you from, nearly 2 foot distance? And from the other person, a foot, under a foot. And that's going to change their perception of you. That's going to change how they interact with you. And all of these little things where how different people interact with one another will shape how they're perceived by one another. And so to one set of people, somebody could seem as nice as pie, and to other people, they could seem like the devil. It's the same person, inevitably. They're just showing different sides of their character, of their personality, of how they are. Sometimes that's needed. For example, if you're a police officer or in the military or any type of kind of where you need that stiff upper lip kind of mentality, you're going to have that kind of bit harsher side, a bit more of a brash side. But it's not always going to be a time and a place from that. Sometimes you're going to have to be soft and take the easier approach. Sometimes you're going to have to turn up, if you're a police officer, to a domestic situation, and you're going to have to really shut it down and be firm. Sometimes you're going to have to be really calm and compassionate. It's going to be so situational, and life is the same. So then, if we're all running this kind of weird simulation, are we all just trying to experience different situations to gain information? That's the kind of where my mind settles on with it all, is that we are the universe trying to experience itself in as many ways as possible to gain as much insight as possible. And for example, I'm the universe experiencing itself through what it's like to be John. Does that mean that everything I experience about this universe is going to be true? No. But it's going to be true to John. And that's going to gain enough insight that I'm going to be able to go through my life. I'm going to encounter enough that is going to fill my life. There's not going to be no gaps in my code. I'm not going to fall through the game or glitch into a wall at any point. There's going to be enough that there is substance, that there is meaning to me, but it's not necessarily going to have bearing to somebody else. But that's okay, because there's the lessons that are learned from the experience that is John are going to be taken on the back end, and added to an archive of, cool, this is person John. This is what happens when we run through the universe as this type of entity and da 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 da. And then it's not going to have to run a John again. That's the answer to what all of those events lead up to is a person named John, and what his life equates to is this series of events, and that led to this series of lessons. So here is that kind of installment of life on to the next. Now somebody else will have a different series of events, a different combination of chemicals once they're kind of concocted in the womb. They'll have a different kind of snippet of the world to realize, whether they be in another country or another state of mind or another kind of culture or another, whatever it may be. They're going to realize life through a different way. They're going to come up with their own truths, their own thoughts, ideas, and understandings of the world. And some of them are going to have truth and some of them are going to be false. But again, it will be enough to get that person through their existence and kind of answer those questions for the universe. What happens when this happens? And I don't know if that needs meaning. Like, sometimes it's just because it can. Like, if you're driving and you've got the opportunity to go fast, why do you? Some people do just put their foot down and go as fast as they physically can. Other people don't. Not everybody does it. And that's the thing. Some people stop and ask the questions, why is life the way it is? Why is the universe here? Why are we here? And some people just live and play the game. What's to say which is right? For each, to me, they're both right for them. If this is the universe trying to experience itself and understand itself, then really, I don't know if any of us can do wrong. I mean, that's not to justify wrongdoings or anything else or to encourage them, but again, everything answers everything answers a question one way or another, good or bad. And I don't think the universe inevitably has a bias. I think it will be neutral. Like, I don't think the universe, whether this be a simulation or not, cares if I have a successful life or not. I care, yeah. It's important to me, but I don't know if it's important to the universe. Why would it be? Whether I have a good existence or a negative existence, inevitably, I'm still going to answer questions for the universe, good or bad. It's not going to affect the universe none. So, really and truly, why would it matter? And change universe for God or deity or whatever else you want to frame it. If we are all servants in a sense, we are servants to a game, a simulation, a sim in a realm or a disc or whatever you want to contextualize it as. Is there really anything that is a no-go? Like, we're all just trying to answer what it means, whether it be good or bad. The kind of questions answered. Like, to put a spin on a weird question, or not a spin on a weird question, put a weird spin on an old question. If a tree falls in the woods, does it make a sound? I don't know. But if it does make a sound, I'll ask you, what type of sound does it make? Is it a different sound depending on X, Y, or Z? Or is it always the same sound everywhere else? Or does it just fall with a big bang? Is there any variance in that? Does the bang vary? Is it loud? Is it quiet? Is it subtle? Is it sharp? All of the other variances, like, yeah, it may fall. Your mind says it will make a sound, but what type of sound does it make? Again, you can have a child and yes, that is a human life, but what type of life is it going to have? You don't know. You've just got to let it kind of cascade out. And I think the universe done that with us, whether it is a simulation or not. I think we are just free to cascade. But then that poses the question of free will. But I think I'll leave that for another episode because there has been tangent after tangent. It's been fun to delve through this, and I'll be interested. Please look, if your mind rabbits about like this and jumps from one rabbit hole to another and hop, skips and jumps all about the place, drop a comment. Let me know I'm not alone in this. Let me know I'm not crazy, because this is just what I could get out. There is so much that I'm still rattling around that doesn't make sense, and I haven't contextualized yet and haven't found a way to frame. So, yeah, if you've got some kind of common train of thought and you want to keep me company in the insanity, by all means. Insanity loves company. So drop a comment. But I think I'll wrap the episode up there with, I'll try to make a seed that's relevant to this bad boy. And that is, we have no guarantees, whether this is a simulation or not. So all you can really do is give it your best crack. Hey, if it is a game, you might get an achievement by the end of it. If it's not, at least you lived a good life. Like, it's one of those ones where it's a kind of win-win situation. If you choose it like it's a game and there's something that you've got to do, a place that you've got to go, and an objective that you need to complete, at least you've got purpose. That's a hell of a lot better to me than just aimlessly wandering around. All the best, and I'll catch you on the next one.